Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take all those sources you send us and we really pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge. Today, we're diving into something pretty big, Thailand's ambitious land bridge project. It's a monumental infrastructure plan, really, and it has the potential to significantly reshape, well, trade across Southeast Asia. You've sent us a fantastic stack of research articles, expert analyses, all digging into this. And the core question seems to be, is this project going to be an economic game changer for Malaysia? Or could it be more like a competitive threat, an elevator or a coffin maybe? That's what we're here to figure out.
Exactly. Our mission today is to, cut through the noise. We'll distill the economic side, the geopolitical angles, even the environmental implications from all these different sources you've provided. We want to help you understand the nuances, maybe spot the patterns, connect the dots. The goal is to get beyond just the headlines, find those crucial aha moments, and give you a really solid perspective on what this means for the region.
Right. So to really get a handle on this, we first need to talk about the existing giant in the room, don't we? The Strait of Malacca.
Absolutely essential context.
It's been called the throbbing artery, the superhighway for global cargo ships for, well, centuries. This incredibly narrow waterway, connecting east and west, it currently handles something like, what, a quarter to maybe 30% of the world's traded goods.
That's about right. And the vessel numbers are staggering. Estimates range from 90,000 to maybe 100,000 ships passing through annually.
Which has cemented Malaysia's, and let's not forget Singapore's position as this vital maritime hub for so long. Ports like Port Klang, the port of Tanjung Peloponnese, they've absolutely thrived and they contribute massively to Malaysia's economy.
But even a superstar has its vulnerabilities, right?
Wow.
Despite being so dominant, the strait does face persistent issues. Congestion is a big one.
Yeah, you hear about that a lot.
And the ever-present threat of maritime accidents, plus, whispers of piracy still surface, although perhaps less frequently today than in the past. And in today's world, everyone's focused on efficiency, speed, cost savings. So any reduction in transit time or cost, however small, becomes incredibly tantalizing. These pressures have really set the stage for exploring alternatives.
And this is where it gets really interesting, isn't it? Thailand's bold step into this space with their land bridge project. What exactly is this audacious plan?
It is their audacious answer, you could say. And importantly, this isn't that mythical crack canal, the full sea-level canal people talked about for decades.
Ah, right, not digging a whole new canal.
No, this is a slightly less dramatic, perhaps, but still incredibly ambitious overland alternative.
Okay, so break that down. It involves two brand new deep-sea ports.
Correct. One on the Andaman Sea side, the Ranong, and another over on the Gulf of Thailand side at Champhan.
And connecting them is road.
Both. A network of road and rail about 87 to 90 kilometers long, effectively creating this overland shortcut for cargo containers.
And the goal? To bypass the Strait of Malacca congestion.
Primarily, yes. To alleviate that congestion and, critically, to cut down the journey time for east-west maritime routes. The report suggests maybe 4 days saved.
4 days is significant in shipping. And cost savings.
They're touting a potential 15% cost saving for certain shipments. But this isn't a minor undertaking. The estimated cost is pretty staggering, around 1 trillion baht.
Wow. What's that in U.S. dollars?
That translates to roughly 27.5 to maybe 36 billion U.S. dollars. A huge investment. And if we look at the bigger picture, Thailand's projecting some very rosy economic benefits for itself.
Naturally.
They're talking about creating 280,000 jobs, a boost to their GDP growth somewhere between 1.5% and 5.5%. It's quite a range, but significant either way.
And the traffic volume they expect.
They're aiming high, planning to handle 20 million TEUs annually by 2036. TEUs being the standard 20-foot equivalent units for containers. That's massive volume.
Huge numbers.
And they expect to generate something like $520,000 USD in daily revenue. Interestingly, they're also looking at Saudi Arabian investments, specifically for oil distribution centers. That seems like a particularly savvy strategic move.
Okay, so Thailand's got big plans, big numbers. What does this all actually mean for Malaysia? Is this Thai project just, a small ripple for Malaysia's economy, or is it more like a seismic shift that needs immediate, maybe even frantic attention?
Well, let's walk through the potential futures. First, let's consider the downside scenario. We could call it the, oh dear, we're in trouble future.
Okay, the pessimistic view.
If this land bridge really does manage to capture a significant chunk of that transshipment traffic, Well, then Malaysian ports, especially the big ones like West Ports and the port of Tanjung Pelepus, could see a serious decline in volumes.
And the knock-on effects.
Direct hits to port revenues, obviously, job losses in the logistics sector, and impacts on the wider economic ecosystem that depends on that activity. Some experts, like Professor Premkumar Rajagopal, have voiced these exact concerns, that it could really reshape regional trade dynamics, potentially diverting shipping away from both Malaysia and Singapore. EMI research even warned billions at risk.
But hang on, you mentioned cost savings earlier, but also this potential extra handling cost. What's the real math there? Because saving $40 per container in fuel, but adding maybe $185 in port and rail costs, that doesn't sound cheaper overall.
That's a really critical point, and the sources highlight this ambiguity. The math isn't always straightforwardly positive for the land bridge itself. For many shippers, especially those moving bulk or less time-sensitive goods, that additional handling cost, the loading and unloading at both ends of the bridge, plus the rail journey, it could easily make the traditional all-sea route through the strait more economical.
So the 15% saving is only for specific cases?
It seems likely. The argument must be that for certain high-value, time-sensitive cargo, that 4-day time saving is worth the extra cost. But for the majority, probably not. The established sea route likely keeps its cost advantage.
And other assets at risk.
Yes. There's also the concern about major investments, like the $27 billion Petronas Pengerang Integrated Complex, a huge oil and gas hub. Its value proposition might diminish if new oil pipelines associated with the land bridge bypass the strait entirely.
Okay, so that's the concerning picture. But what about the flip side? Could it be more like business as usual, just with a twist?
That's definitely another possibility. Look at someone like Datuk Ruben Emir Ganalengam Abdullah, the chairman of Westports Holdings. He stated quite confidently that his customers aren't really seriously considering the land bridge as an alternative, at least not yet.
Suggesting loyalty, maybe? Or just inertia?
Probably a bit of both. Strong existing client bases, established relationships, deeply integrated logistics networks. These things aren't easy to disrupt overnight. Plus, you have to remember, global maritime trade isn't static. It's constantly expanding.
Good point. So even if some traffic diverts.
Exactly. Overall growth in global trade could still mean Malaysian ports remain very busy, even if their share slightly decreases.
And what about working with Thailand on this? Is collaboration an option?
That's a really interesting angle. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim himself has actually said Malaysia stands to benefit and be involved in the project. He's specifically mentioned potential benefits for the northern states, like Kedah and Penang.
So not seeing it purely as a threat.
It suggests a more proactive stance, yes, recognizing it's happening and looking for opportunities rather than just trying to block it or ignore it. Maybe a kind of symbiotic relationship could emerge. The land bridge acting as a sort of pressure release valve for the Malacca Strait, smoothing out flows overall rather than just pure competition.
Okay, that's pragmatic, but let's push it further. Could there be a more whimsical, unexpected boom future for Malaysia because of this?
Whimsical maybe, but strategically interesting. What if the very existence of this competitor forces Malaysia to seriously innovate and diversify, to unlock economic potential beyond just being a transshipment point?
How so?
Well, imagine a surge in high-value manufacturing, taking advantage of potentially improved land connectivity within the whole ASEAN region. Picture Malaysia carving out a niche as a regional hub for specialized logistics, maybe for things that absolutely need speed, things that benefit from that overland shortcut, while the big bulky stuff continues to use the sea route.
So leveraging the land bridge indirectly.
Precisely. This kind of creative destruction, as economists call it, could theoretically catalyze completely new industries, foster a more resilient, maybe more dynamic Malaysian economy.
Yeah.
Think about the proposed Kulim International Airport, KXP, up in Kedah.
Yeah.
That could potentially complement the land bridge, turning northern Malaysia itself into a different kind of logistics hub.
That unexpected boom does sound appealing, but feels optimistic. What are the big what-ifs or hurdles that could stop Malaysia from grabbing that kind of opportunity, even if the land bridge goes ahead?
Well, the biggest hurdle is probably complacency, or maybe a lack of rapid adaptation. If Malaysia doesn't proactively invest in the right areas, if it doesn't push diversification hard, if it doesn't engage strategically with Thailand and the region, then those potential benefits just stay theoretical.
Yeah, they won't just happen automatically.
Exactly. New industries, new logistics hubs, they require deliberate planning, investment, and execution. It's not a passive process.
Right. And beyond these economic scenarios, this whole project is tangled up in bigger geopolitical games, isn't it? And it faces practical challenges, too.
Absolutely. It's crucial to remember the land bridge's success is far from a done deal. The challenges are significant. For starters, actually securing the private sector investment needed.
You mentioned the huge cost. Is the money there?
Well, as of 2024, reports indicated that investor interest was still somewhat tepid. That's a major red flag for a project this size relying on private funding.
Tepid interest in a multi-billion-dollar project. Why the hesitation? What's holding investors back?
It's likely a combination of things. The sheer scale of the upfront investment, for one. The very long payback period is another. And crucially, the intense competition. You're going up against established giants like Singapore's massive Tuas port development and Malaysia's own efficient Port Klang.
And the operational complexity.
That too. The inherent complexity of unloading cargo at one port, moving it overland by road and rail, then reloading it onto another ship at the other end. That adds steps, time, and potential costs. Think about risks like cargo damage or loss during that overland transit, potentially higher insurance premiums.
So the 4-day time saving might get eaten up by other delays.
Some critics definitely question how much net time saving there will really be once you factor in that whole logistical dance. For many shippers, the simplicity and reliability of the single sea journey via the Malacca Strait might remain more attractive, even if it's technically longer. And then connecting this to the bigger picture, the geopolitics are fascinating. The project's been described as trying to straddle a delicate U.S.-China line.
How so? The China angle seems obvious.
For China, yes, it's seen as a potential solution to their so-called Malacca dilemma.
Which is their fear of the strait being blocked.
Essentially, yes. There's strategic vulnerability, especially for energy supplies. If that critical maritime choke point were ever disrupted or blockaded, perhaps by a rival navy like the U.S., the land bridge offers a potential bypass.
Okay. And other powers? India.
India, on the other hand, tends to view it as a potential threat to its influence and dominance in the Indian Ocean region. They worry about shifting maritime power dynamics.
And the UAE investment you mentioned?
That's seen by some analysts as neutral capital. Maybe an attempt by the UAE to help Thailand keep the project from becoming purely Sino-Indian battleground, providing financing without overtly tipping the geopolitical scales.
So if China sees this as bypassing a potential Malacca blockade, is Thailand basically trying to play this incredibly fine balancing act, offering something useful to multiple powers without getting totally aligned with any single one? That sounds like a high wire act.
It absolutely is. Yeah. Thailand seems to be positioning itself as a neutral facilitator, a regional hub. But it's a very high-stakes game. And for Malaysia, of course, being geographically right in the middle means they have to tread incredibly carefully, balancing their own economic interests with all these shifting diplomatic relationships.
Delicate indeed. And we haven't even touched much on the environmental side.
Right. We can't ignore the environmental and social speed bumps either. In Thailand, local fishing communities and environmental groups are already raising concerns. They're worried about the disruption to marine ecosystems, fishing grounds, their livelihoods.
And potential impacts on Malaysia.
Malaysia shares those concerns, particularly about cross-border environmental effects. Potential damage to coastal ecosystems and fisheries in the northern states is a worry. And then there are the social costs, the potential for job losses, especially if traffic volumes at major hubs like Port Klang were to significantly decline.
Okay, so the picture is complex. Lots of potential upsides, downsides, risks, geopolitical maneuvering. The ball, as you said, seems to be in Malaysia's court. What's the playbook? How can Malaysia navigate this to not just survive, but maybe even come out stronger?
Malaysia's response is definitely key. And the sources we looked at suggest several core strategies, moving beyond just generic advice. First, it's about investing in port modernization and digitalization. But not just faster cranes. Think smarter. As Dr. Prem Kumar advised, embracing technology is crucial. Can Malaysia use AI to predict shipping patterns, optimize logistics before ships even dock, create a truly smart port ecosystem offering efficiency that even a new land route struggles to match? That's the real modernization play.
So competing on efficiency and intelligence, not just location.
Exactly. Second, fostering regional integration. Really engaging with Thailand on synergies, maybe exploring joint ventures, strengthening those land transport corridors within ASEAN. Turn the potential threat into a shared opportunity. Remember Prime Minister Anwar urging Thailand to revive broader Pan-Asian rail links? That points towards favoring wider regional connectivity that benefits multiple countries, not just the land bridge focus.
Makes sense. What else?
Third, diversification and innovation, but with real focus. Yes, it's perennial advice, but critical now. Look beyond traditional shipping. Cultivate new growth engines, maybe green technology, high-tech manufacturing. Or could Malaysia become a specialist hub for niche, high-value logistics? The kind of cargo that genuinely needs speed and sophisticated handling, leveraging existing infrastructure in new ways.
Playing to potential new strength.
And finally, relentless research and foresight. Continuously analyzing the implications of mega projects like this. You need rigorous, ongoing analysis to adapt quickly and effectively. It's about staying ahead of the curve, being proactive, not just reacting when changes happen.
Okay, so this deep dive into Thailand's land bridge really shows it's, well, undeniably a significant development for the region. But whether it truly becomes a game changer for Malaysia's economy, that doesn't seem like a foregone conclusion at all.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Perhaps the real impact of the land bridge project isn't just as a direct competitor, but as a spotlight, a clarifying force. It forces Malaysia to confront a fundamental question. Is its future just as a transit point on a busy sea lane? Or can it evolve? Can it become a hub for high-value specialized logistics, using technology to serve time-sensitive cargo in ways even the land bridge might struggle with?
A catalyst for change, maybe.
Could be. Malaysia has this incredibly rich maritime history, a dynamic economy. But the land bridge is a classic example of potential creative destruction. The existing infrastructure, the expertise, the location, they won't vanish overnight. But they absolutely cannot be taken for granted anymore. So maybe the project is less of a game changer, more of a game clarifier. It's forcing Malaysia to really define and execute a more sophisticated 21st century economic strategy.
So the fundamental question isn't just whether Malaysia can survive this new shortcut, but whether it has the agility, the vision to pivot, innovate, and actually emerge stronger from this. Thinking about everything we've discussed, what stands out most to YU as the single biggest opportunity, or perhaps the biggest risk for Malaysia in this whole unfolding maritime drama?